How do you paint magic into a Genshin Impact prop? Well, if that's your question, you are in luck because in this video I'm going to be showing you how I made my catalyst for my Yae Miko cosplay. In particular, I chose the Kagura's Verity, which is the default one that comes with Yae Miko. Every time I say Yae Miko, my neighbors thrill. This cosplay continues to be cursed. I'm sure you are tired of seeing tutorials on how to paint gold or how to paint silver, but what about glowing effects? Today I am making my prop like it was out of Inazuma. And of course, this is part of my Yae Miko series, so you can expect everything going smoothly. Welcome to Cosplayland, I am Alice, and this is how I made my Kagura's Verity catalyst. But I said it right, I hope. For my catalyst, I decided 3D printing was the fastest way to do it. I did not design this file, but I will leave you a link in the description where you can download it. My new 3D printer is much better than the old one, but I still had a few fails here and there, and I either fixed or reprinted some of the worst pieces. For some of the pieces, I decided to go for a slower setting to get a better finish. This was particularly noticeable in the smallest pieces. My machine was working day and night for a full week until I got every single piece. Once I made sure all my pieces were functional, I assembled the biggest parts to make it easier to handle. Of course, filling gaps and sanding was the longest part of the process, but you already know how to do that if you saw my Yae Miko 3D printing video. Photo shoot is tomorrow. I'm trying to paint this thing with the airbrush, and guess what? This is not working. Not working. Okay, that did not work. Let's go for a more traditional approach and use a paintbrush. For this project, I will mostly be using Citadel and Vallejo paints. These are acrylic paints and they are very pigmented, and hopefully they are going to help me finish this prop quicker. Using a very soft brush, in my case an all makeup brush, I started applying the color to the base. If you look at the reference pictures, the base of the wand is slightly darker, so I went ahead and used a darker color for the lower part, making sure I blend all the edges. I also emphasized the effect further at the top by using a lighter color. The trick is to blend the colors very well using small circles. You can always back to the previous color if you overdid it. I really like this effect, but I wanted it to be more dramatic. I noticed that the original design has a bluer tint to it, so I added a bit of dark blue to the bottom edge. Time to crack open the magentas. I mixed a bit of the previous purple to blend the colors, and I painted it to the lower edge of the wand, adding more and more pink gradually towards the edge. I want this piece to look more like a gem, and I want it to be distinguished from the other part of the wand. And I also decided to go back to the other side and add a little bit of black to the inner edge. This will help add contrast between the different parts later on. The lower ribbon is also purple, and as this is a small part, I used this as a test piece to check if I like the color mixes before I applied it to larger areas. I mix an even lighter pink to my purples to also paint the tassels and separate them from the ribbon. Finally, I blended a little bit of white to my edges while the paint was still wet to achieve that ombre effect. So far so good, but it is time to add some magic. Introducing fluo colors, and in my case I am going to be using pink and purple. These colors are very intense. Unfortunately, they are also very transparent, so you will need a consistent base before you can add them. That is the reason why I painted the whole thing before I started adding them. Notice how the color has now become more vibrant. I'm gonna try and do the same for the gem at the bottom. I carried on mixing colors and lighting up the edges to make it look a little bit more glowy. Finding the right consistency and effect took some trial and error, but soon enough I found a color I was happy with and I carried on using it. I also applied some of the purple to the ribbon to match the rest, and it was time to carry on painting the helix. Once again, I made a gradient from dark to light until I was happy with the effect. And then I applied the fluo color to boost the vibrancy. For the bells, I used a mixture of light pink and purple and very graciously painted them out of camera, because it's much more difficult than it may seem. Then I added some of my pink fluo on top. Blending wet paint is quite fun, and if you mess up any steps, it is very easy to change the color simply by adding more paint. I kept going back and forwards with my different colors until I got a smooth blend. And to make the edges look sharper and magical, once again I used a lighter color to emphasize them. Adding a bit of white to the edges makes it look extra sharp. And a final pass with the fluo color gives it the extra push. But now my edges have lost a little bit of definition, so it is time to add some highlights to those edges with a lighter color. I repeated the same steps for the inner edges. And once they were dry, I added the fluo paint and I highlighted the edges with my lighter color. Time to add some details. With a small brush, I started picking up all the gold edges on my catalyst. There are some larger areas that need to be painted gold too, but I still need to be careful with the edges. Choosing the right brush for each area is a skill on itself. The rings had large gold areas as well. Fortunately, my paint covers pretty well, but I did have to do a second layer in some areas to cover them evenly. I'm not gonna lie, all this process would have been so much faster with an airbrush, but this also shows you that you don't really need any fancy tools nor space outdoors to achieve nice results, and acrylic paints are totally safe to use indoors. The last step is to give some depth to the gold, and for this I am going to be using oil paints, but with a twist. Instead of a brown, I am going to be using purple. This will add to the magical effect of the wand. You just need a dollop of paint and a few drops of white spirits. Very carefully, I applied my purple to the inner corners of my gold pieces. The good thing about this paint is that you can easily clean the excess with a sponge or paper and a bit of white spirit, even after it has dried. So there's no need to be careful when applying it. Just still be careful to save some time. If you use this technique, remember you can only clean oil paint with solvents and they do not dissolve well in water. But please be careful when you use oil pens and solvents as the fumes can be toxic and you will need to open a window. And it is finally time to assemble the pieces. At this point, I had already been painting for 10 hours straight. And having to do a little bit of engineering at this time was certainly not something I was looking forward to. We are on the last stretch. I applied some superglue and started working on my puzzle. Using a reference picture is always a good idea. Now, you see this little dowel over here? Keep that in mind, because this is going to be relevant in the future. As you can see, I was having a lot of fun. Yeah, really. Also, do you remember those little bells I showed you before? I may have completely forgotten to paint them. So here I am painting all the tiny little edges when I already thought that I had finished painting. Let's take a break from the wand and let's assemble something that I know how to assemble. For the bells, I decided to add real bells to, well, bells, to get a more realistic effect. And I only had to repeat it over and over and over again. I also decided last minute I wanted to add some glitter to the helix. Once again, using the resin method. Please don't judge me, it was late, I completely forgot my gloves, and I actually realized it here and just stopped recording to get those gloves. Make sure you are careful when handling resin. Do you still remember my little dowel? Because I am about to mess it up. But I carried on and kind of fixed it, or so I thought. Did I put it upside down? Did I really put them upside down? Yes, I put them upside down. I put them upside down. This is why you don't cockroach. And here's to another broken piece. Am I proud for pushing myself through this situation? No. Should I have gone to rest instead of crunching to make sure the things would go well? Absolutely! I really wanted to finish this prop for the photo shoot, but having to work till last minute without any rest for over 12 hours straight, just the day before the photo shoot, almost ruined everything. I was very close to just cancel the photo shoot because I was really feeling so down and so bad about myself that I didn't want to do it anymore. If my airbrush hadn't broken that same morning, perhaps things would have gone differently. The thing is, after a few fixes I was not so proud of, I did manage to finish it and it was complete for the photo shoot. And the catalyst was complete. Wait, is one of the pieces still in the wrong place? Wait a minute, what? Damn it, I just noticed that part. But the important thing here is that I made it in time and I was able to bring my Kagura's Verity catalyst to my Yae Miko photo shoot. I hope you like this tutorial. Remember, you can already watch the making of my Yae Miko cosplay, and if you have already watched it, I will be releasing one more Yae Miko video in the near future, so make sure to stay around if you want to see the behind the scenes and some other extra things that went wrong with this cosplay. I already have the next cosplays ready to go, and I am looking forward to show you some more making-ofs. Thank you for watching, and I will be seeing you in the next adventure. Bye!
It works because we know that the Thousand Sons used to have access to decent oil Verity, and as such, them having a bit of robot extras going on is a nice kind of callback to that. Even though they've got the right trappings and they have the right overall vibe for the Thousand Sons, there's just something about them. And I think I finally kind of worked out what it is that's bugging me.